Driven Mofos, I am back. Driven Mofos, welcome back to another episode of the Underestimated Entrepreneur. Well, things went quiet there for a little bit. I didn't disappear. I'm not dead. I haven't been hunted by a South American criminal crime gang. You know, I've heard stories, but none of them are true. Look, here's the thing. I went on my trip to the US and things got hectic. I wanted to stay on top of the podcast, but the truth is that I had to prioritize what I needed to prioritize. And with the trip, everything got crazy. So we ended up traveling so much. We literally flew from Adelaide to Sydney straight across to LA. LA, I spent a night there. I spent a night in Sydney as well. Flew to Miami, had pretty much every day back to back with podcast guests, hanging out with people, shooting content. Then from there, we flew back to LA because I had a podcast in LA with Preciado. Then I had to fly to Vegas 2 days after that. So I had the podcast with Preciado. Then I was part of his mastermind. Then flew to Vegas the following day. Then I had a full day with Brad Lea doing marketing and content. Then I had to fly to Arizona the following day for Elliott. I had to fly back to Vegas for the podcast on dropping bombs with Brad Lea. Then I had to fly back to Dallas the following day after that. So, you know, you can understand how crazy it got. Then I had to fly back to LA again. And it was hectic. But anyway, it just really made me think about the podcast and how important this podcast was while I was away. So many of you have reached out and said, hey man, where's the podcast? Or I'm missing the podcast. I've flicked the podcast to somebody else. What I realized was how important this podcast is to so many of you. And it really made me think about why I do what I do. Now, when I was away, I had a lot of time to reflect. I was really thinking about, what does this business mean to me? Why do I do what I do? Now, I'm sure you've had these questions as well, right? Where maybe you wake up one day and go, why do I do what I do? Why is this stuff important to me? Why am I working? Why am I making money? Why do I have a business? Or, you know, why am I doing what I do? And it really gave me that time to reflect. And I got a lot of clarity by having time away from the podcast. Not that I like that, because I like the consistency of doing them. And I do know that it's important for so many of you. I know that a lot of you wake up in the morning and you listen to the podcast, hence why we do it Monday to Friday. The cool thing is that now I have episodes coming up with some of the biggest speakers and some of the biggest, I guess, names on the planet who are going to be on this podcast, which is going to be really, really cool. That should be dropping around the start of December. We're just finalizing everything now and getting all the content ready. But what I wanted to really share about was it made me really reflect on why I do this. And having so many of you message me about where's the podcast? Hey man, I'm missing the podcast. Do you know, I wake up every day and I listen to it. A lot of the time I don't get this feedback. Like very rarely do people give feedback when things are going well. So normally you get feedback in your business when things aren't going well. You know, customers are complaining or whatever. But when you do an awesome job, very rarely do people speak about it. And it wasn't until the podcast stopped. Like I get messages from a few of you every week, but it wasn't really until the podcast stopped that so many of you came out of the woodwork and went, shit, man, where's the podcast? I need an episode. Like it juices me up every day. It gives me something to think about throughout the day. It gets me back on track. I've noticed my motivation increases when it's there. I notice that I just think differently around my friends and family because so many of them keep me stuck. So it made me really think about that. And I do thank you all for those messages. So what I realized when I was away is that at the moment, leadership is such an important factor of people's lives. If you're a parent, you're leading yourself. You have to lead your kids. You have to lead people around you. I also realized that when you're a business owner, you're always leading people. And if you can't be decisive, if you can't make decisions, if you can't make big decisions in the face of fear, then you're not really leading, you're following. And for all of you out there who have to ask other people if it's okay to do what you want to do, or you have to go and ask advice from everybody else all the time because you're unclear on what you want, and you sort of partially take on that advice but not really listen and still do your own thing, but then have fear and reasons and excuses as to why you can't do shit that helps you to achieve what you want, then the truth is you're not really a leader. And what I realized is that this podcast isn't just about getting people pumped up or giving a little bit of advice that you can go and implement and execute in your own life. It's really about creating leaders. My community is about creating leaders. And what I realized when I was away is that you can't lead others unless you lead yourself. And also that we create in this company, in Mojo Human Performance, we create winners. And So many of you are winners. You've got the winning mindset. You want to achieve. You want to do better. You want to excel. You dedicate time to listening to this podcast consistently to better yourself. That's a winner's mentality. The question though is, are you taking actions to win? Because there's so many of you out there who just aren't taking actions to win because you're allowing your emotions to dictate your behavior versus your mission, your vision, your values, your goals, and all the stuff that I teach at Thrive Time. Now, if you're a business owner and you're not clear on your vision, your mission, and the values of the organization, and you don't know what you're really trying to achieve by setting maybe 1 year, 90-day goals or OKRs, then it's very, very easy to get off track. And what I also realize is that when you don't have a greater future vision, you allow your emotions to dictate your behavior and how you feel in the moment. And most of the time, that feeling is going to be fear. So if you have fear that dictates your behaviors, you're going to always be worried. You're going to have stress. You're going to worry what everybody else thinks. You're going to allow other people to make decisions for you because you just don't have that clarity. And so I'm going to thank all of you out there who sent me those messages to make me really think and reflect on what creates great people in the community, people who consistently achieve versus everybody else in society who very rarely get what they want, who spend most of their life in fear, worried, stressed, worrying about what everybody else thinks, but never really doing the things that they want to do in life. Those people who reach out to me every week and say, I want to grow my business. Yet as soon as you tell them what it's going to take to grow their business, they shit their pants and step backwards and go, oh man, I don't have the time. You don't have the time? What do you mean you don't have the time? I look at your Instagram account and you're away every weekend. You're partying, you're drinking beer, you're running amok, you're playing golf fucking twice a week. You definitely have the time. What you have the time for is avoiding the real shit that you need to get done. You have plenty of time to avoid dealing with your emotions. You have plenty of time to avoid thinking about your mission. You have plenty of time to distract yourself and to do shit that average people do. What you don't have time for is you don't have time to keep messing around because every year you're getting closer to the end of your own life. And I don't mean that in a harsh way, but what I mean is that every day we're a day closer to death. And if we're not making decisions to grow towards something that's fulfilling and meaningful to us, then we're being driven off of our emotions. And part of the reason why most people never achieve what they want is because they allow emotions to define their behavior. They'll go, well, yeah, but I want to be comfortable. I want an easy life. I want freedom, Michael. I want financial freedom. Really? You don't want financial freedom. You want an easy life because you're lazy. You're mentally lazy. You're physically lazy. And so you're always looking for a shortcut for the short path. I have never met anyone who lives a great life and achieves anything great who's looking for the easy path. They have something big to achieve. And so they're prepared to work for it. They're prepared to go after the things that they want. They want to die leaving a legacy. They want to die knowing that life was meaningful and purposeful. Most people will never know that though, because to them, working hard means that it's sacrifice, it's struggle, it's painful, it's emotional, you feel like shit. So what do? They go out on the weekend and they get drunk. They take drugs, they party and they go, well, that's a good life. But it's not, because you wake up with a hangover, you wake up with a regret, you wake up with guilt, you wake up with shame, and you feel shit about yourself, and then you beat yourself up and feel crap again. Then you force yourself to go to work again in order to pay off the debts that you created because of your stupidity when you're having those sort of fun, and I put in brackets if you're watching my YouTube, fun, which is not really fun, it's self-destruction. So most of you don't know the difference between self-destruction and enjoyment. And that's why most of your enjoyment is self-destructive to your own goals and your dreams. When you have clarity, you win in life. And you win in life because you know what you want. And you're prepared to take both the pleasure and the pain, the good and the bad, the comfort and the discomfort in order to do something meaningful in life. Yeah, it's tough achieving a mission. It's tough going to the gym. It's tough raising great kids. It's tough being mentally switched on all the time and dialed in. It's tough. But you know what? It's also tough avoiding dealing with your problems. It's tough being overweight and feeling like shit about yourself, and every time you put on clothes, they rub against your body and make you feel uncomfortable about how you feel about yourself. It's uncomfortable going to the beach and not being able to take off your shirt or your pants and all that because you're ashamed of your body. It's tough having a relationship where you struggle to communicate and you and your partner are disconnected, and that's even if the relationship lasts. It's tough going through breakups. It's tough going through divorce. So here's the thing. What tough do you want in life? Do you want a fulfilling life that's tough? Or do you want an easy life where you take the easy options that's also tough? The only difference between the two is that one, you get to live on your terms, and the other one, you get to live on life's terms. And life's only ever going to be as good as what life gives you. Whereas the other side, you're pushing, you're achieving results, and you get to do great things within your own life. You know, I hate nothing more than when people send me messages and they go, "You're lucky you've got a supercar." I'm not lucky. I outwork every other motherfucker. That's the reason why I have a supercar. You're lucky you get to fly business class. I get to fly business class because, you know, when you're taking public holidays, I'm working. And I'm not working because I have to work. I work because I love work. I love doing this shit. I love waking up every day knowing that I'm inspiring people, that I'm building leaders, that I'm building winners, that I've got a community of people who want to get out there and kick ass and put themselves in the top 1 to 5% of the population. I love it. I love nothing more than getting messages from people in my community saying, "Hey, I just bought a supercar." And they're not buying it to impress others. They're buying it because it's what they wanted. That's their standard. I love nothing more than getting messages of people showing me their new home that they bought, the dream home that they never thought was possible 2, 3, 4, 5 years ago. But now they've got it. Why? Because they're setting the standard. They're saying, I would rather work hard, push myself, struggle to better myself, and at the same time build a life that I love and I get to enjoy, versus I'm struggling because I keep taking the easy options and I keep doing what everybody else does, expecting something different, waiting, hoping that one day something's going to change, when the truth is it never will. Because here's the thing. Momentum is always behind us. So when you do shit that is destructive, momentum is behind you. Momentum is going to keep pushing you in the same direction that you're already moving in. So if you're doing things that are destructive, believe me, you're going downhill pretty quick. And you do that weekend after weekend for a couple of weekends, and man, you're going downhill quick. You push yourself moving uphill, and momentum gets behind you, and you start to get things moving uphill. And now in 6 to 12 months, you're a completely different person with completely different results, with people around you going, "How the fuck did you do that?" Well, here's what I did. I did things that most people won't do. So the question is, how are you living? Why are you doing what you do? Are you thinking about how important it is for you in your life to build a life that you love? Are you leading by example? Are you the person who your kids are going to look up to and say, "You know what, I'm proud of my parents because they did the things that nobody else would do"? Are they looking at you saying, "That's what work looks like. That's what taking on challenge looks like. That's what overcoming adversity looks like"? Versus, "My parents told me to work hard so I can party hard. And then when they party hard, they fucking lose everything or struggle with everything." Or they're always looking for shortcuts, taking all the high risks, looking to get high risk with high rewards, when the truth is normally it's high risk, high reward. And most of the time the rewards don't come. So most people lose in life. What my point is, this time off gave me time to reflect and realize how important it is to have so many of you in the community who are kicking ass. What it made me realize is that we build leaders, that we build winners, that we're in the top 1 to 5% of the population. And so many of you started from the bottom, and slowly I've seen you climb your way up week by week by week by listening to this podcast. Then I see you at my Thrive Time event, building your success map in life, getting clear on your mission, your vision, your values, your goals, working through your mental and emotional shit. Not like all these other courses out there that make you go back and deal with all your trauma and shit, but building a greater mindset because you know where you want to go. And you can either do one of two things. You can live in the past and keep trying to fix your past when the truth is it's never going to work. Or you can build the future mindset that you know that you need that's going to help you to succeed, which is what I focus on. And I'm not saying that sometimes the past comes up and you got to deal with those things. What I'm saying is the more you focus on trauma and fixing yourself and all these, fads that are out there now where you need to get rid of stress, you need to eliminate fear. When you're focusing on that stuff, where focus goes, energy flows. And if you keep focusing on all your gaps, on all the problems that you've got, on all your frustrations, on all your stresses, on all your past shit, you're always going to stay trapped there. What I suggest that you do is build a greater future. And you do that by focusing on the future and keep moving towards it and watch what happens. You'll eventually get there, and one day you'll go, "Holy shit, I can't believe where I started from." So I see so many of you come to Thrive Time, and then you go, "Well, what else is possible?" Now, for those of you who have businesses, the next second you're at Business Odyssey and you're investing in yourself over 12 months to grow your business. And then now you're putting zeros on top of zeros on top of zeros on top of the end of what you're already earning. And I watch people go from hundreds of thousands to millions to tens of millions. We haven't had anyone in Odyssey yet go from the million to the 100 million. We've got someone who's close at the moment who's getting pretty fucking close to it. Okay, but my point is that when you keep growing, and you keep learning and you keep adapting and you're listening to this podcast and you're with a great community like this and you're with people who hold you to a higher standard, who hold you accountable to things, you don't even know what's possible yet. What will happen is as you start working on yourself, all of a sudden you go, shit, look at what I've achieved. What else is possible? And then you start opening up to the idea that anything is possible. And that's where you really start to crush it in life. And what I know now is that this podcast is so important to so many of you to start that journey, to make sure that you're staying on track. Many of you out there don't have the right friendship circle or the connection circle in order to consistently excel. And I know that you use this podcast to make sure that you stay in the right mindset while you're in that network of people. So look, this podcast is back. I am back. I'm going to make sure that I keep this consistent, and I'm going to make sure that you've got something to listen to each and every day, at least until the podcast starts where I'm launching season 3, which will be with some of the top people in the world. I got big Wes Watson on. I've got Tai Lopez. I've got Elliott, Bedros Keullian, Eric Spofford. There's so many amazing people who are on there. If you don't know some of these people, go and have a look at them. But there's probably about 20 people. I interviewed Usain Bolt's head psychologist. So he was a head psychologist for Usain Bolt, Shaquille O'Neal, and the Jamaican athletic team, one of the greatest sports teams in history. And I was able to sit down with him and just chill and shoot the shit on a podcast and do a really good interview with him as well. So that will be dropping as well as of December and into the new year. So please make sure you stay on track. Remember, keep sharing this as well. I really do appreciate each and every one of you, and I appreciate all those messages. And thank you as well for reminding me how important this is to so many of you. There are plenty of people out there who will listen to one podcast episode and never come back. There are plenty of people out there who start things and never follow through with anything. There are plenty of people out there who convince themselves that one day they're going to do something and never do shit. But I know that that's not most of this community. I know that most of you are here because you want to better yourself. You're committed to a greater life, and you just need a lot of the tools, the mindset, and the right people around you to keep you moving in the right direction. And should you keep doing that, I guarantee you'll crush it and you'll end up in the top 1 to 5% of people in the whole population. Anyway, Driven Mofos, keep kicking ass. I really do appreciate each and every one of you, but we're back. Take care. Most people waste their life, and I just don't want you to be one of them.